you do and to share your expertise. And I just can't thank you enough. So I will
Yeah.
let you get started since we're 2 minutes after the hour. So
Yeah, I
I'll
was
let
gonna
you
say
take
right
it
on
away.
time. I love it.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you.
you're so welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm gonna go ahead and get my screen share going. And what I can tell you guys, as I mentioned to Annette earlier this morning, I just want this to be super casual. I don't want it to be, a super fancy formal webinar. I think it's more interactive when it's more fun when it's more interactive, right? So, I just want you guys to use the chat box as much as possible, right? Be active in there, reach out, ask questions. I'll probably call on some of you and have you put things in the chat box. So just know that. And if you guys, of course, have questions as I'm going, feel free also, because we are a small group, to unmute yourself or to do the little raise hand icon and I'll call on you. So hopefully that's okay with everyone. Usually people like that. Sometimes people don't like when I call them out, but hey, we're a small group, so you might be the lucky name, you know? You just don't know. All right, let me see if my screen will share. Here we go. Let me know if you guys can see that. Yes? Okay. Present mode, present mode, present mode. There we go. Perfect. All right. So we're going to kind of jump right in, and this has been my most requested webinar and or keynote. I have a keynote version of this, and then I have a webinar version. This particular one I'm going to share with you guys is more of the webinar version. So it is a little bit longer, but that's kind of the point, right? We have more time together. So what I can tell you guys, though, is that the title of this presentation is Indifference. And I'm actually really excited to just kind of describe this topic to you, but more importantly, to really help you understand, are you falling victim to this term? Right now, when it comes to social media, I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there. There's a lot of misinformation. I mean, just this morning, I saw a woman who, you know, claims to be very good at social media, posting about how you should use templated quote graphics from Canva and you should never use your face on social. And I about died watching that because I was like, do you not understand the point of social? And you claim to teach this, right? So there's a lot of misconception out there. And I feel like I've made my mark in this industry really by debunking as many of those as possible. I also ended up writing a book about it, all about the word indifference and all about what that means. So at the end of our session together, you guys will have the opportunity, if you do not already own a copy of my book, to get it. It's easiest on Amazon, honestly. It'll get to you a lot faster than the handwritten signed copies I had to send to all of you guys who order through the website. So we'll get to that when we get there. But what does indifference mean? I'm going to define it for you first and foremost. And no, it's not the Webster definition or Webster dictionary definition. It's my definition of it. And then I'm also going to physically show you or aesthetically show you what indifference looks like. And then I'm going to talk about the three biggest things about it or around it as to why these are the biggest hidden threat in the social space. And it's a dangerous thing, right? Kind of like the Voldemort word of social. So if any of you guys have spent time, energy, money, even on social and worked on it and felt like, why am I still doing this? Or why am I not getting anything out of it? You're in the right place, right? We're going to try to solve that problem and really dig into it. But before we do, for those of you guys who are not connected to me on social already, this QR code will actually take you directly to my Instagram. You can also just type it in if you want. But I love being connected to all of you guys offline, or I guess it's online, but off webinar, right? So feel free to connect with me there. And also, I think one of the other things I want you guys to know is sometimes questions come up after the fact, and this actually has a Fathom attached to it. So what that means is that you guys will get a recording notes essentially, or an AI transcript of notes from our session together. So sometimes that is helpful and answers a lot of the questions you might have. Other times it doesn't, right? Meaning like you still need me to answer something or get clarification around something. So that's why I love being connected to people after the webinar is over, so that we can do that. Okay. All right. Let's get in to the meat and potatoes here. So in the chat box, for those of you guys who may have ever seen me do this, no cheating, right? But in the chat box, I want you guys to comment, what do you guys see here? Feeling words. or just whatever comes to mind. What do you guys see? I'm not answering for you guys, so you have to use the chat box. Thank you, Crystal. Crystal says the pool and underwater. Michelle says goals. Kelly says swimming pool. Love that. Chris says swim meet. I love that. Far too many swim meets in my life, so I totally understand why you said that. Should say far too many, but definitely a lot. Swimming pool for racing. Super good. Okay, so you guys obviously are seeing what you should be seeing here, but what this is a swimming pool. Now, virality, we're going to talk about this a little bit. I love that. Someone said pathway too. That's even better, right? I'm so glad that you guys are starting to pick up on some of this terminology, but this is a pathway, and I'll get to what all that means. But before I do, social media in general, the problem with social and how it is being taught is we are taught to chase things that do not matter, right? How many followers do I have? How many likes am I getting? How much engagement am I getting on my content? These are all good things, right? We want those things, but they do not make us money. Can we say that out loud one more time, right? They do not make us money. Now, unless we're using social to be an influencer and we're getting paid to post about certain things or certain products or based off how many views we have, right? Why do we care? And none of us here are here for that, right? You guys are all in the mortgage space. Your job is to do a lot of loans. Annette, your job is to do a lot of loans, right? Not to worry about how many followers you have on Instagram. Now, do you want to be able to attach yourself to looking backwards and saying, wow, look how far I've come? Of course you do, right? Yes, that's always a good thing. But where the problem becomes a real issue is where we are so attached to it that we can't see the bigger picture, and we don't really actually put the time or energy into the things that do matter, which is what the black line is in front of you. So back in 2019, I'll tell you guys a little story. So in 2019, I launched Beyond the Method, which is the name of the course that I have created. And I remember just being so overwhelmingly excited after 4 days in my office, and I had locked myself in my office to finish all of the videos to build this big, beautiful course in Kajabi. And I was so excited to launch it to the world, right? And I had put years into growing my Instagram presence. How many followers did I have? My content, right? I had taken bits and pieces of things that I had learned from people. And I was really excited to officially finish recording all the videos and wake up Monday morning. I forget the exact date, but it was in July at some point. And I remember waking up Monday morning being like, oh my gosh, I am turning this on. I am going to just crush this. I'm going to sell so many courses. It's going to be amazing. Right. And what happened, most of you guys can likely guess, is I actually sold nothing, zero. So the 2+ years prior to that I had worried about what my content was, worried about how much of engagement I was getting, how many followers I had, didn't correlate into sales, and something was wrong, right? Something was missing. And I couldn't figure out what it was until I took some time after the failed launch, which any of you guys who have ever launched something or planned an event and it hasn't gone as well as you've wanted to, or done like a first time home buyer seminar, or maybe you've taught a class somewhere, right? Which most of us all have. And there's very few people that show up, or, it seems like everybody forgot that this was supposed to be happening this day. And you're like, did people not get the count? Like, what's going on, right? That's a pretty crappy feeling. And it was in that moment, it was just for me devastating. And I remember taking some time off. I took maybe 2 weeks off, and I really processed what was happening. And I had put so much stock in how many people were consuming my content that what I failed to pay attention to was how many of them I actually had relationships with, right? How many of them actually knew what this course entailed? How many of these people knew that I had put years of my time and energy and life into building this course so that they could be successful? And I had totally missed the entire point of social. I had missed the relationship aspect, and even more so, those who I already had a relationship with, I wasn't talking to them. Meaning I wasn't messaging them, I wasn't engaging with their content, having back and forth, reminding, say, hey, Annette, I'm so excited. This is launch day. Remember, if you have any questions, please, like I wasn't doing the outbound prospecting, right, which is now my signature term, and what I'm now known for, right, over the last several years. But I wasn't doing my own outbound prospecting. I was simply posting content and hoping, which how many of us fall victim to that, right? Posting content and hoping that someone would message me or that on the morning of it launching, someone would buy it. And nobody did. And ultimately, the only problem that, or the only issue, if you will call it that, was me. I hadn't put the time and energy into creating the relationships that needed to be made. So, what's the point? The point is that the black line on the bottom of a pool for me, after a 20 plus year swimming career, I swam all through middle school, elementary school, middle school, high school, all the way through college. And I specialized in swimming the mile. So any of you guys familiar with the sport of swimming, you know that's a very long race. And what I ultimately discovered in my career was that endurance is everything, right? And discipline is not something that we can just say we want to have or say we know is a thing. It's something that we have to do, right? So in order to swim the mile, which is again the longest race on the or on the program in general, whether you're female or male, it's about a 17+ minute race for the elite female. Those who, are going to the Olympics are doing it in like 15 and a half, but they're at the Olympics for a reason. But this is a very long race. So in order to do it and to do it well and to be successful, I had to be really good at endurance, or I had to have a lot of endurance. And long story short, the analogy here is how similar is that to what we do in our lives, to what we do in business, and also as it relates to social, how similar it really is to, do I have a long-term sustainable strategy for social, or am I chasing vanity metrics that don't serve me and are temporary or fleeting, right? So we're going to talk a lot about that. But what I want you guys to know is that everything that we're going to be talking about from right here moving forward is that black line you see on the bottom of the pool is your trusted guide in this case, right? Just follow it. One side of the pool to the other side of the pool, and you will win and you will be successful with social if you follow the black line that I've laid out in front of you. When I relaunched Beyond the Method in November of that year, we did about 14,000 in sales over the weekend. So I went from a very, very terrible launch in July to selling absolutely nothing. And then once I finally sold my first course, had to severely discount it just to get him to say yes, to a relaunch in November with a plan, with an outbound prospecting strategy, to a nearly $14,000 weekend, which that's a big, big difference in the outcome of many years of work. And the only thing that changed was I put time and energy into outbound prospecting, right? Talking to people through the social platforms. So everyone has a line to follow. Every single one of you guys in your business has something that you know you need to be doing consistently on a daily basis in order to generate ROI. You all know it. Question is, are you doing it? Right? So hopefully this rest of this presentation gives you the tools you need to actually do it. Remember, discipline is not a noun, it is a verb, right? Meaning we know it's not just something we have to say we have, it's something we have to do. Discipline is not a noun, it is a verb. So find your line, right, in your own business and follow it. And hopefully this becomes the answer, right? And discipline is the difference between those who are tired of wasting their money, their energy, and ultimately their time, and those who are generating revenue through social very consistently. So I will tell you, I have never gone viral once in my entire career, ever, in almost 11 years of being on social. I've never had a post go crazy. I've never had a YouTube video explode, right? I've never had any of that happen. Yet I have one of, if not the most successful social media marketing companies in the mortgage and real estate space ever, right? And there's a lot to say about that. And ultimately it comes down to, no, I don't need the most followers. No, I don't need the most engagement, but I need to be the best at building relationships through social. So remember, your social is a vehicle for creating the relationships you need that will drive revenue for your business. Social is the vehicle, meaning we're going to use it and message through our platforms to create the opportunities to build the relationships, which then in turn makes people want to consume our content, right? So if our content's not good, then we have a different problem, which is what we're going to experience here as you guys see what indifference looks like. Because if you know what indifference looks like and you can solve it and then you couple it with social prospecting, it's like pouring gas on fire. You will crush it. But many of you are likely in the content phase of this where we have to fix the content problem before I can teach you how to pour gas on it, right? So it's not a one or the other, it's both. Okay. So as I said prior to this, just a few seconds ago, even content first, prospect second. We have to fix our content problem first before I teach you how to outbound prospect. I was on a webinar not long ago. A gentleman in the chat box commented and said, hey, can we just skip this and go straight to the prospecting? Because, you know, my content's whatever, but what I really need to do is make money off my social. And I said, sir, can you put your Instagram handle in the chat box? He did. And you can guess what I probably did, right? Or what I definitely did. I should say you can probably guess what I did. Better way of saying that. I screen shared his Instagram in front of the entire audience on this webinar of over 200 plus people. And I said to him, I said, sir, looking at your content right now, if I were to teach you how to prospect, it would fail. It would be the equivalent of trying to climb Mount Everest with zero training. Like, just would not work, right? So why is that the case? Because your content sucks. And this gentleman ultimately left the webinar. No surprise, of course. But what I was trying to expose is that many of us, all of us, right, including myself during my failed launch in 2019, I was so focused on content and living in this hamster wheel of content production all the time that I was missing the real value of what my content was supposed to do, which was to help build relationships with people. So I was using Canva graphics left and right all day, every day. That's pretty much all I was using, right? The occasional photo of me or the occasional branding photo from a fancy branding photo shoot I would produce, but it wasn't working, right? Clearly, when I launched it, definitely didn't work. So the adjustment had to come in the content as well, not just me being better at outbound prospecting or me being better at sending messages to people that I already have a relationship with. It's both, right? Not one or the other, it's both. So your content does matter. And if I'm really good, let's say I send a message about something that she posted. The first thing Annette is going to do very likely is click on my profile and be like, who is this Michelle girl, right? So if she clicks on my profile and doesn't see anything about what I just messaged her about, let's say I was talking about swimming, or let's say I was talking about horseback riding or whatever, right? If she doesn't see any of that type of content on my platform, she's out, right? I've just ruined the relationship or the bond that I was trying to build. So again, you can prospect really, really well. And I could have sent her the world's best written message ever. But if my content didn't back up, am I who I say I am, it doesn't matter. Right? So you got to think about that. It's not one or the other, it's both. And you guys will probably hear me say that a lot. So this is a fun picture of me actually from my senior year of college, my very last warm up of my very last mile of my career. But what I want to share with you guys here is a very important statistic, which is kind of ironic and also kind of mind blowing if you really think about it. And this is not my statistic. This is actually a statistic done by a research study through HubSpot that was produced or published on LinkedIn, which was very interesting, right? And those of you guys who are connected to me, you know I'm very active on LinkedIn as well. But this statistic in this study was mind-blowing to me. And here's what it is. It says that 69% of marketers that are using social are focused on follower growth, meaning how many eyeballs are consuming their content. And only 18% of that 69% have said that it leads or has led to any form of revenue for them. That means we have a room full of exhausted, tired, overspent people who have put way too much time, money, and effort into social and made zero money back. That sounds like that girl from 2019 who tried to launch something that failed, that put 2 years into doing it, right? So I was on the 69% side. And why was I not on the 18% side? And how do we get to the 18% side? And here's the answer is it's the difference between having a social media content strategy, meaning I'm producing content and I'm doing a good job at being consistent, versus I have a social media prospecting or conversion strategy. Right? So I am not a social media coach. I want you guys to be really clear about that when you take notes on any of this, or who is Michelle, right? I am not a social media coach. I am a social media prospecting coach. and they are very different because a social media coach, in by definition, which I have a graphic that I actually built just for this that you guys will be able to see. A social media coach teaches you to chase trends. They teach you to focus on the algorithm, or what are other people doing, or what's the trending audio, or what's the fun trending reels, right? Or what are the best hooks for my videos? And again, not saying that those things aren't good, not saying that those things aren't fun, but they don't make us money. And I'm here to teach you guys how to actually make money, because that's what we all need to live our life, right? So that's an important thing. So the difference between the 69% and the 18% is one has a content strategy, the other has a conversion strategy. So the 69% of those people, most of you are here watching this, are likely in that. You guys are focused on virality metrics that are fleeting. A good example is how many of you guys have ever gone to the casino, spent money, and you win. And you're like, oh, I want to go back, right? That is called the dopamine effect, right? And that is why casinos take a lot of money from a lot of people every single day, because it is addictive and you want to keep coming back because you won one time and you're like, oh, if I won once, I can do it again, right? So you're kind of living in this hamster wheel of, well, maybe if I go, this might be the time. Maybe if I post this piece of content, maybe this will be the post that someone finally reaches out to me about, right? And we have this sort of mentality towards content production, but it's a fleeting metric. And why do I tell you that? For example, how many of you guys have gone on vacation recently? And all of a sudden you look at your analytics, whether it's on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever, and you're like, wow, crap, my numbers are way down. Or like the profile activity is down 327%, right? Like I remember opening LinkedIn and looking at my impressions and being like, holy smokes, my impressions is literally down 57% week over week. And I was like, oh, wait, duh. I took almost 3 days off that week. I wasn't posting, I wasn't commenting, I wasn't engaging on the platform. So of course my metrics were down, right? So again, we attach ourselves to something that doesn't hold weight, right? Because just because I took 2 or 3 days off of posting and commenting on things doesn't mean that my content isn't going to generate revenue for me if I'm not, or as long as I'm doing the outbound prospecting I need to be doing. Vacations are meant to make us feel better, not worse, right? So important part there, right? Now, here's a really quintessential saying. I said it on a podcast and I didn't even know that I had said it, but I feel like it's a wake-up call, honestly, that we all need in today's social media landscape. And I believe this is the heart of today's conversation with you guys. But so many professionals are stuck in this cycle of trying to go viral, posting for likes, chasing visibility. But again, here's the truth. Likes don't pay the bills, clients do, right? So we got to start to pay attention to what matters. And when I was competing, the mile, as I mentioned, was my main event. And it was not the sexy race. It was not the crowd favorite. Everyone wants to watch the 50 free because it's fast, it's flashy, it's this really big, almost noisy, loud event. And the swimmers touch the water and boom, they get to the other side, race is over. The average 50-meter free takes roughly 23 seconds for a female, less than that on average for men. So you guys can imagine the difference between watching a 23-second event versus watching a 17-minute event. Very, very different, right? So one is about really that virality piece that we're talking about, but the mile is about discipline. It's about focus, strategy, and long-term execution. And what's funny about the mile when I was still competing is it was typically the event that everybody would go to the bathroom or go get snacks, right? Because they're like, oh, I got time, I'll come back. So it was not that event that everybody stayed and watched. But what's crazy to me about it is these were some of the most impressive, and the swimmers that had the longest longevity in the sport were typically endurance sprinter or endurance, not sprinters. Meaning, right, how many of you guys have seen ultra marathoners finish at 70 years old, 80 years old, right? Like I see them all the time, right? How many of us have ran a half marathon at 50 plus, right? And it's crazy because you'll never see, you'll never see that happen in a 50-meter dash, right? Or the 100-meter dash, right? Those people are not old because they can't be, right? In order to compete against the young people that are doing it. Now, there are some anomalies. I don't want to say that there aren't, but if you look at the overall longevity of an endurance athlete, it is significantly longer than a short sprint or burst of energy athlete. It's just fact. It's just science, right? So again, most of us do not need more likes. We need more clients. Very, very different. So let's talk about what a difference means and then let's see it, right? I mean, hopefully you guys don't want to throw anything at me after I show you any of this. No tomatoes at the screen, okay? But I am going to expose what indifference means and what it actually visually looks like, because it's important that you know which side of that token you're falling on. Okay, so by definition, again, not the Webster definition or the Google definition. This is Michelle Berman Michaels' definition. But indifference is when someone doesn't care enough to say yes and someone doesn't care enough to say no, they do nothing, right? Meaning if I don't care enough to say yes and I also don't care enough to say no and I'm kind of like meh, I don't do anything. And that's a big problem, right? Because we know that in order to create action out of a human being, we have to stir emotion in them. So if I don't care one way or the other, I'm not doing anything. And that's a big sort of exposure here, right? That I'm trying to make you guys see. Now, let's look at it visually. Okay. Two visual examples of two different individuals. I do not know the people on the left. I just found random screenshots of random people to show you guys visually what indifference looks like. And then the two that you'll see on the right side of the screen, both of those are active current coaching clients of mine that are crushing it. Okay. So let's look at the the left-hand side, and in the chat box, tell me what you guys see. When you look at the word or the side that says indifference, tell me what you guys see. It sounds like Katie might be an endurance athlete, according to Chris. What do you guys see? Come on, guys, you can do it. Looks like Annette's typing. I'm going to call on you guys. Come on. Crystal, what do you see? Oh, right as I called on her name, I just picked the first name over there. Crystal said quotes. Okay, what else do you guys see? Annette, if you want to unmute yourself, let's do it that way. It's probably faster.
Well, I'm just seeing they're just making statements, but there's not any real direction behind it. And I think people move past those because it's just words. There's no meaning because you're not speaking them. So there's no form of engagement with the audience. People like to hear your own words, or like you're at least trying to speak to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. Somebody mentioned positivity. I see positive quotes, but I actually don't feel positive energy when I consume this content, right? Michelle says same, it's just words. And the problem with this is, again, we're posting content to post content. So we're checking the I posted on social media box, but we're not actually connecting with our audience. It's not an authentic connection. Now, I see literally 2 photos of the screenshot of 12 posts that have any human in them, meaning like a real picture of somebody, right? So we don't have an emotional connection to this person or to this account because we don't even know who they are. That's really important. How many of you guys right now could look back and remember somebody from childhood, right? You don't necessarily remember, what the house that they lived in looked like per se, but you definitely remember their personality. You probably remember something that you and him or her did together, right? You remember stories from your experience with the person, and that is attached to an emotional energy of, I remember him or I remember her, right? Now, if you look at the right-hand side, this is a client of mine, Jonathan Wilson. He's actually a mortgage professional based out of Nashville. Incredible guy, but his content looked like the left before I got my hands on him. And what I want you guys to do here is, what do you see on the right as it relates to, or in opposition, if you will, to what you see on the left? Crystal says much more personality. Nice. What else do you guys see? Thank you guys for your Participation too, it helps. Michelle says activity. Connection. Good. Two of you said that. Good. Chris says, I like seeing smiles on the right. Good. Shay says reels. Not what matters, but yes, there are reels on the right. Okay, so what do we see here is we see a person, right? We see a human being doing life. We see a lot of video content in the form of reels. But more importantly, we see a gentleman that we actually almost feel emotionally connected to. We like want to know what Jonathan is up to. Any of you guys who are Jeep people, Jonathan's a Jeep guy. So lots of Jeep content. Anybody who loves charities that support animals are going to love his account because he does a ton of stuff about that. A fun photo of him and his wife on date night, right? It's just fun. I gotta sneeze. So sorry. Other thing we see is we see this fun phrase, awesome sauce, a couple of different times. He's holding barbecue sauce. We're kind of like, what is Jonathan doing with barbecue sauce? But it's his signature thing. He's like branding himself as the awesome sauce guy. So if you consume his Instagram and you keep going through it more and more, the saying that always comes to my mind and what my students' mind is, I feel like I know Jonathan and I don't know him. Right? So ask yourself that. I want to feel like I know you, even if I don't know you. That's what really matters, right? If I can consume someone's content and feel like I know who they are, even though I don't know them, that is a huge win, right? And then the key being, are you who you say you are in real life, which is a whole nother conversation. Here's another example of indifference. Go ahead and tell me in the chat box, what do you guys see here on the left? One more time. Two different people. Again, I have no idea who this person on the left is, but I want you guys to tell me what you see. Hopefully you guys noticed list reports. Many of you guys probably have used those or know what they are. That is not social media content. Let me be the first to tell you. Crystal says generic info on the left. Amen, sister. Yes. Right? Random headlines, nothing personal, lacking context. Bingo. Right? Again, do I know who this person is? Probably not. I have no idea if this is a man or a woman. I have no idea if obviously they're in mortgage/real estate, but that's about all I know. Right? So big difference between that side. Now let's look at the right. Another great client of mine, his name is Jeremy Radcliffe, based out of Dallas. This guy is, first of all, just has the best personality, but he is so much fun. He has two kids that are in jiu-jitsu. He himself still does jiu-jitsu at almost 50 years old. They love snowboarding. Also, his value series, which we won't have time to talk about today, but his value series content, this entire 5-part series he did it on making cocktails and the analogy between making making fun, unique cocktails and what factors matter, meaning customizing the ingredients to making a strong loan, right? So obviously his focus is on structuring loans and the pain point of a client needing something that's a unique combination in order to get the loan to close. How many of you guys deal with that all the time, right? Having to move things around or configure something in a certain way, right? So value series is really fun because we bring his personality in or something that you enjoy outside of work into your content. And for Jeremy, when we were doing this, the first one, he's like, well, I love hosting dinner parties, but I also am a cocktail nerd and I love actually making my own concoctions. And I thought it was brilliant. And we used it to create an analogy between those two things, the passion and the mortgage piece, made a whole 5-part series out of it. All of his videos he actually recorded in his kitchen while making cocktails with the paraphernalia of all of the things he would need to make a fun drink. And it just lands. It's so unique and it's so connecting that people really just want to know Jeremy. So yes, Michelle says he's sharing his life. Exactly. But he's also, notice, he's doing it strategically while also, this is very important because so many of you guys want to share value, you want to add and educate, right? But you're missing the mark on how to. And I'm not telling you that you can't share mortgage information or an awesome new loan program. And I'm not telling you that you can't share mortgage data. I am telling you that it's about how you share it, right? Which is why value series is such an important part of this process. And value series, again, is where we combine our passions with our pain points and we make an analogy in ChatGPT to do it. It's a very unique take on this. And it allows you to educate. It allows you to add value and talk about mortgage and be the credible source, but doing it from a place of connection that actually lands, actually creates engagement, actually makes people want to reach out to you because they like you first. Sales 101, I don't have to be the person to tell you guys this because you've heard it a million times, but we have to get people to like us in order to trust us so that they'll buy from us, right? That's the like, know, and trust triangle. Again, sales 101. Okay, so here are the 3 reasons why indifference is so incredibly dangerous. First and foremost, no emotional connection means no engagement, no loyalty, and therefore no sense of urgency from the person consuming the content. And remember, emotion drives decisions. So if I'm not emotionally connected to what you're producing, I'm not going to do anything. Make me feel something, which is why value series and some of the other forms of or other pillars of content that I teach are so incredibly important. Okay, number 2, you become forgettable. Forgettable, in my opinion, is far worse than being disliked because at least when someone disagrees with you, you spark something in them. Politics is never something I will ever post about personally, but there are a lot of people that do, right, and create very polarizing statements about things. But what I can tell you is you can make this fun. And my gym is a great example of this. We do this pretty much every week in our Facebook group. Somebody posts some fun one side or the other thing, right? And the most recent one was about making peanut butter and jellies. And this mom posted it. We're all mom or parents, right? And this mom posted it and said, how do you make a peanut butter and jelly? Do you put peanut butter on one side, jelly on the other side, and then put them together? Do you put peanut butter and jelly on one side and then just put the other piece of bread on top? Like it was this whole just debate, right, about what the proper way was to make a freaking peanut butter and jelly. And it was hilarious, right? And everyone wanted to comment. Everyone wanted to give their piece of or their 2 cents as part of this conversation. So it can become this really fun thing, but it doesn't have to be polarizing, right? And so I just want you guys to know we can make and start fun things. We can post about fun things without it being a polarizing topic. Okay? Number 3, it kills momentum. How many of you guys have ever posted something and like did really, really well, right? And you're like, whoa, a lot of people liked that post. Like, I don't know what it was about it, but it just seemed to get a lot of traction. And what happens is if you do something like that and then you fall back on starting to post those graphics or starting to post those canned quotes or things, it will kill your momentum. And that is a big issue too, right? Because you're on this high, you're trying to ride it. And if you fall back into those ways, it will kill any momentum you may have generated off of that great piece of content that you had posted. So this is my number 1 requested or signature sentence that I've ever said. And I put it in blue here so you guys can write it down, take notes on it, however you want to interpret it. But silence, not sales, is the outcome of indifference. Silence, meaning nobody's doing anything, not sales, is the outcome of indifference. What a dangerous thing, right? Michelle, back in 2019, launches a course she was incredibly proud of. Silence, not sales, was the outcome of that because all of my content on my Instagram and all of my other social platforms looked like these canned graphics. The value was there, the education was there, the things I was talking about was all there, but there was no human behind it. So what happened? Silence. Not what I wanted to happen, which ultimately did happen many, many months later, right? Was the outcome of it. Okay? So let's talk about value series super fast while we have a few minutes and then we'll go into Q&A here. But I want you guys to understand this concept of value series because before we talk about prospecting, which will have to be our next webinar because it's its own webinar by itself. But let's talk about the most important and the most fun piece of content you can start producing right now today that will make a massive difference in the engagement and the quality of engagement that you get on your content. Meaning people will comment on things, people will message you about things, it will start conversations, which we know we need conversations in order to have conversion, right? So what is a value series? A value series is where your passions and the solutions that you provide to pain points that people have, in this case, your borrowers or your realtors, right? You are providing the solution to the pain point that that individual has. Very important to understand how to put these two things together. So again, value series is this concept I built actually back in 2019. Now in today's day in 2025, we have ChatGPT, so this can be done exponentially faster than back when I first built this process. But here's what we do. Oops, wrong slide. Here's what we do is we actually use ChatGPT and we ask it to build an analogy between whatever passion we like, snowboarding, wine, stained glass windows, making cocktails. I had one gentleman do poker because he loved playing poker. I had a girl who told me, she's like, Michelle, I really don't do anything. I'm very boring. I don't go anywhere. And I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Do you have girlfriends? And she's like, oh, actually, yeah, I host bunko at my house once a month. Okay, hello, right? How relatable is that? I grew up playing bunko in my house because my mom was the one that hosted bunko nights, right? So very relatable to other people. So value series, again, we're using ChatGPT now because we have it. So you can simply ask ChatGPT, can you create an analogy between my love of playing bunko with my girlfriends and a mortgage loan officer whose ideal client's pain point is they are struggling with DTI issues, and tell a story around one of your clients and what that means for them or meant for them and why that was an issue. And then ask ChatGPT to turn it into a 5-part series. What will happen? Boom, you're going to get video number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You now have 5 awesome videos where you are recording in the element of the passion, meaning all 5 of those videos, you got your bunko stuff set up, you have your friends over, you have it behind you, like you're clearly in the element of that experience. And that will make people connect to it. And then in the videos, you're talking about mortgages, right? You're talking about solutions you provide, but you're leading with this place of, or from this place of connection. Okay. Major, major difference. So I put this in here kind of last minute because I thought it was relevant, but branding really, really matters. So you guys saw Jonathan and you saw Jeremy's. Many of you guys know Dawn, right? Dawn Bell up in your area. I believe she's a member with you guys. She's been a client of mine now for quite some time. Actually, since I met her with you, Annette, when I was up there in whatever month that was, March. So she immediately became a client, and her branding, if you guys go look at her Instagram today, looks very, very different than it did when I met her in March. And so one of the things I want you guys to know is that every person that we work with, we actually build branding for you from scratch. That's very important. This is not a Canva template deck that is just something we pulled off the internet or something that you buy, right? You can actually buy template decks on Etsy and some of these other places. These are built, customized to the individual based off of who you are as a human being. So when we were working with Dawn, Dawn built a mood board for us based off a homework assignment that we gave her. She built the whole thing based off the ChatGPT prompt, submitted that to us. My team and I got on a call with her, actually 2 calls, and we took her feeling words. Tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. How was there any element of this mood board that you were like, I don't want that in there. I couldn't figure out how to get it to go away, or I wish it had more of this, right? So we're having this really good back and forth meeting with you about the mood board. And then my team takes the mood board and turns it into a fully customized brand deck for Dawn, right? And Dawn's content is some of my favorite as far as the branding is concerned, because knowing Dawn, it is so her, and it is her energy. It is her very fun and joyous personality, and it really comes through in her content now. Whereas before, which was all of the in-house marketing graphics from the company she was working for, that did not ring true, right? And how many of you guys, I'm not going to ask you to tell me, but how many of you guys have ever actually, this is rhetorical, right? Used the in-house graphics that your company provides and posted it on social, or maybe even have the company itself posting on your behalf on your social. AJ says Annette's looking her up. Of course she is. Dawn is amazing and she's crushing it. And she's about to actually transition into prospecting with me. So when any of our clients are done with phase one, they then transition into phase two, which is the prospecting phase, which is where I get to teach Dawn how to go actually create an outbound message and structure her messages to actually get booked calls or booked opportunities on her calendar, whether that's with realtors or builders. She does a lot of work with construction loans, right? So getting connected to the vendor partners that she needs to make more opportunity for herself. So prospecting is a really fun part of this, but she had to earn her right to start working on that with me by getting through phase one, which is the content and the branding piece. And now if you look at her content, right, it matches that energy that we want. It's engaging, it's fun, and it's super educational and valuable. But more importantly, we know who Dawn is. Okay. Now here's some really fun examples of mood boards and the outcome. Two different people. Top one, her name is Kaylee. She's adorable. She's actually a loan officer in Oklahoma. But this was the mood board that she submitted to us. You can see that right there in the middle of the screen. And then ultimately, this was what her content looked like once we revealed all of her branding to her. This is just a snapshot. Obviously, I can't show it all to you because it's a big deck. But you guys can see what that looks like, and the outcome of it is dramatic, right? And the other thing about this, I'll tell you, which I don't know if I've said, no two people will ever look the same, ever. It's impossible, right? Because you guys have different mood boards, you have different personalities. So that's why this is so important and so customized to you. So when that mood board comes through, we have that meeting with you, and then we build branding based off of that. And we've also built a lot of personal logos for clients, meaning like if Annette Watkins doesn't have an Annette Watkins personal logo, not a company logo, that's got to get built, right? That's part of your brand. And it's very important. And most people don't have it because they're usually attached to like, whatever their email signature is that they get from the company. But no, you got to have your own individual personal logo, because the key is, can your branding go with you wherever you go? I'll say that one more time. Can your branding go with you anywhere you go? And if it can't, fix it. Right? Bottom one is probably my favorite mood board I have ever received to date still. This was a gentleman actually based out of Colorado Springs. This mood board looks like something straight out of Yellowstone to me. The only difference is this gentleman is blonde, not dark haired like Rip, right? But amazing mood board and amazing outcome. His content is fire. It just looks so good. And he's done a really, really good job at continuing to use it over time and facelift it as he's gone. Okay. So building a brand is valuable, as we know, but building a pipeline is what we really, really need, which is ultimately what makes us money. Just having great, pretty content doesn't make us money. It does make people more emotional and attached to our content, but it doesn't actually create conversion. So conversion happens when we actually understand how to outbound prospect or send messages to people that matter. Okay. You're not doing this for fun. As I say all the time, I never got into the pool when I was training in college just to swim laps for fun. I was there to do a job. I was in it to train. I was in it to race. I was in it to beat my best time, right? I was in it for something. Now I can swim recreationally, but that's very different, right? I'm not competing anymore. So I'm assuming that none of you are in the social game just for fun, right? You're in it because you assume that it can help you generate revenue for your company and create visibility for yourself as a mortgage professional. So make it work for you, right? Winning in business means you're converting that visibility that you now have into revenue. Okay. And as we've talked about, your content, is the foundation of how you prospect. So your content's got to be there first. Notice I said Dawn had to earn the right to transition into the prospecting phase with me. She has. She's done the work. And phase one isn't hard. It's about 4 or 5 sessions. It's not hard, right? But it is going to require energy and effort on your part to create the outcome. So I'm actually going to stop here, I think, Annette. I was going to keep going, but I think this is a really good stopping point because the next piece of this is the prospecting part. And I think we need a whole session on prospecting because now that I'm doing this, I'm like, I want to add this and I want to add that. What I can tell you is that my superpower is teaching mortgage and real estate professionals and any sales professionals really how to outbound prospect through social, meaning you are sending a message every day to someone you do not know through the social channels, and you're doing it with the intention of creating opportunity. And what's funny is how I'm even here talking to any of you is because I did exactly that to Miss Annette many, many, many months ago before I even knew what our connection point was, other than it was Mr. Ken Perry, who doesn't know Ken Perry in the Northwest, right?
Yeah.
So I put my own, what would you say, methodology, right, into play in order to even be here with you, right? So this
Yes.
is in theory, this is fact. Do it, and you will create revenue. You will create opportunity for yourself. So, Annette, I'm going to hand it back to you, and I'm actually just going to skip through this for sake
Yeah.
of time here.
Mhm.
And for those of you guys who don't have a copy of this, I know Annette does. I believe I signed yours, Annette, right? Um,
Yeah.
if you do not have a copy of my book, you can scan that QR code and actually order it directly through my website. Or if you want to do it through Amazon, that's obviously an option too. Super fast and super easy. And it'll get to you in about 2 days. So much faster. It's about 4 or 5 days if you order through the website now that we actually have all the inventory. We didn't for many, many months. As you guys know, any of you who have ever written a book, it's a process, right? But I'm super excited that this book is out in the world. Annette, have you read it yet?
It is on my bedstand, and I have not dove into it because I want it to be in a moment where I'm focused on it and not just kind of taking a page at a time. I
Yeah,
want to really embody it. Does that make sense?
100%. Absolutely. You have to have
Mhm.
the mental space for it, no doubt.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I love that you have it. You've been an
Yep.
amazing supporter of me for forever now, and I appreciate you. But Annette, do you have any thoughts on all of this and the presentation as a whole that you want to kick us off with Q&A for?
Um, well, it was fantastic, and I knew it would be. I think we all know that we need to be more authentic and be more personable with our content and passion. And I love that. And I know that the Chat GPT is definitely a huge feature that is underutilized. So thank you for reminding us of that.
No.
I could just sit here and listen to you all day. I don't know if anyone else could. Um, I hope everyone found what Michelle had to say, hitting some pain points that maybe you haven't been doing. And then having you back again, we would love to do that as another maybe session. Like I know that we were talking quarterly.
Yeah,
So yeah,
totally. I
like
think
anyone
round
has a
two.
question.
Yes, absolutely. Anybody has questions? Crystal, I know you've been vocal in the chat box. Lynn, Marilee, if you want to ask any questions, Shay's been active as well. Feel free to ask, and you're so welcome, Shay. Thank you. AJ, you're so welcome. Michelle, who's here to ask questions, guys. I'm here. I have another 5 minutes, but what I can tell you to kind of foreshadow the second session with me, I'm going to teach you exactly what the one daily act is, meaning who to send the message to, right? So the daily act is one message you send through social every single day for 365 days. That is your outbound prospecting effort, but it is very structured and strategic, meaning who you send them to is by choice based off of the strategic alliances that you want to build to earn the right type of opportunities that you need to generate business for yourself. And when I say generate business, I mean leads, right? Everybody needs leads in order to convert. But what are the opportunities that you need to do or have in order for leads to be the outcome, right? So we're going to talk a lot about that. I have an entire worksheet I built that's part of my coaching program called Drivers and Levers, that we'll kind of go through a little bit of. But I think it will be really eye-opening for those of you guys who have not thought of using social as an actual outbound prospecting effort. So many
Mhm.
people are still calling, right? Emailing, texting. Not that those are not good things, right? But it's not the fastest and easiest way to communicate with the right person these days. And I certainly don't think it will maintain that or stay that way, right? Or I certainly other way around. I certainly do think that it will stay that way. That social becomes significantly more easy to communicate through.
What do you
Right?
think of some of the apps that it's called? I think it's CapCut. Have you heard of those?
Yeah, CapCut is your video editing. We use CapCut a little bit, but I'll tell you, CapCut is typically better for more long form.
Mhm.
Whereas we actually use a platform called Opus. It's not an app, it's actually only on desktop, but that's by design.
Mhm.
So Opus is OPUS. Any of you guys want the link, I can send it to you, but it's about 175 bucks for the entire year, so it's very cheap as software goes. But what it allows you to do is you upload all of your video content that you record, it grades you. So it literally gives you a numerical grade out of 100, and then it breaks down each of the four most important parts of a video and gives you letter grades in each of the four. You can add multiple clips to it. You can upload a 30-minute video and it will break it up into multiple clips for you. It's all AI based, so it takes the best parts and clips them together. Also, the nice thing about it too, I mean, you can add your captions to it, which is easy. But the really nice thing about it for me is it allows me to not have to do a lot of the manual editing, right? CapCut is very time intensive. I watch my husband do it every single day, literally, because he has a big YouTube channel for his coaching. And I watch him put together these long form, beautiful clips, and he's so good at them. But in my mind, I'm like, I just don't have time for that, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so
I
neither do
want
many
the
of you.
link.
Yeah,
I want the
absolutely.
link.
I can actually, I'll stop my screen share, and I can put it in the chat. I love Opus. Like I said, we use it literally every single day. Come on. There we go.
Thank you.
Of course. I'm pulling the link up for you. Hang on just a second. Dashboard. Here we go. All right. Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank
Opus
you again, Michelle. This is
moving faster than
um, definitely, I feel like a deep dive, but almost surface, but also very poignant on all of those pain points that I think we all experience.
Yeah.
I love it.
Awesome. I just dropped the link in the chat. Hopefully that works. I'm actually logged in, so sometimes that makes it weird.
Yeah. Okay. I just clicked it and put it on my computer. So
Perfect.
if
Awesome.
anyone needs it.
Yeah, anybody needs it, Annette has it. Also, feel free to reach out to me and let me know what I can do to help. But until next time, I can't wait to see
Yes.
you all soon. And thank you. Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you. And safe travels and congratulations on your pregnancy and just super, super happy for you.
Thank you so much. We're really excited. I appreciate
We're,
you guys.
yeah, we're
Everyone,
blessed to have you. Thank you, Michelle.
of course.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.